What can you do? They have a gem and they're just, you keep burying it down. Tavon's going to come out eventually.
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, where men of fantasy genius have realized, hey guys, we don't need real football skills to dominate on the fantasy field. Yeah. So slap on your pads and grab your helmet. Shit's about to get real.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another edition of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. I am your host, Nick Schreck, coming to you live here on June 20th. We've got a beautiful, beautiful evening of fantasy football ahead of us here, and I'm joined by none other than Vinny Gonzalez. And Vinny, we are here to talk about the NFC East. What's going on?
Not much, man. Excited to get back into things. First one of the year for me. I know you got your feet wet with Walsh last week, so I got a bit of catching up to do. That's
all right. I have no doubt we'll fall right back into sync, and fantasy football is going to roll right off the tongue. People are going to be happy, and we'll be covering NFC East Part 1, NFC East Part 2, and those are going to be coming to you live starting Friday morning, June 21st, guys. So once you're tuning in, get ready for Part 2, and then we're going to get spoiled with a Don and Walsh special on the AFC East coming at you guys next Monday and Wednesday. I see the smile on Vinny's face. I know he's excited for that episode. Don and Walsh is going to be a special treat this early in the season.
Yeah, that's just good shit. I love Walsh and Don's dynamic. It's just fantastic.
It's a love-hate relationship, if you want to call it.
I think it's all love.
Well, deep down, but they like to bicker like an old married couple, and I personally think it's great for podcasts and for the fans. So, without further ado, I think it's time that we get ready to kick things off. How does that sound, Ben?
Sounds fantastic.
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, home of the brutally honest fantasy advice you've always needed.
All right, guys, just a quick friendly reminder coming at you. All ADPs we throw out here are courtesy of Fantasy Football Calculator in the 12-team PPR format. And with that, we're going to cover the first team of the day, and it's none other than our local New York Giants. Woof.
Yeah. I don't know what to think here. Like, obviously we get all the local hype and or mega trash talk, especially after the draft. They did not have a great draft. It's hard to tell how a draft is going to pan out, but instant reaction from all the fans and everybody was the Giants had a bunch of picks and kind of fucked up.
Yeah, they definitely blew it. And it was funny to be here around Giants fans when the OBJ news broke that he went to Cleveland, and a guy everyone, at least most Giants fans I spoke with, believed was going to be a Giant for life. Obviously, he's now a Cleveland Brown. They watched the draft go down the way it does. Daniel Jones goes number 6 to the New York Giants, to the dismay, as you put it, everybody. And now we have kind of a shit fest between Eli Manning and, as I'm referring to him, Mr. Duke. But it's none other than Daniel Jones. And quite frankly, it's a shit show at QB, Vinny.
Yeah, I mean, I take this stuff with a grain of salt, but all the reports of them at scrimmages, throwing picks and stuff, it's just, don't freak out about all that stuff, but it doesn't sound great. Like they're having great camps or anything like that. But I really don't know who the hell is going to start. My gut says just Eli, because I think it would cause a big stir if Jones comes out starter. I don't know if people would be, excited about that, or he obviously might need some time as well behind Eli, which is probably good for a number of reasons. But I think they might take it slow with Daniel Jones, even though fans might not see it that way. I think Eli's had enough time. Fans probably think that too, but I just feel like that's how the Giants will go about this.
Yeah, I agree. It's been a long time, I think, since people can actually say they've been excited about Eli, but and that's what I think they're going to get, at least to open the season. And unless something catastrophic happens, I think he's your guy, at least for a little while. Daniel Jones needs some time, as Don would say, to marinate on the bench and kind of learn, hopefully, only the good parts from Eli Manning, whatever those good parts may be. And then he'll get to take over that team in the future. But it's Eli's world right now. Daniel Jones is just sitting the bench in it. And I think that's really it, the QB. Obviously, no fantasy value here for us today, Ben, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, Eli has his weird idiot savant games where he'll throw up 20 plus and you play him in a good matchup and you hate yourself for it at the time, but you might get away with it. I'm pretty sure Walsh does that once a year with us.
Always.
Yeah, he seems to make the best of it. So probably a wire stream, but basically the point I think we're trying to make is We're anticipating Daniel Jones will be involved somewhat, so keep that in mind when you're drafting guys like Barkley, all the wide receivers like Shepard and Tate, which we'll hit on, in a couple minutes. But it's just know that dynamic will probably change. I don't think anyone can see Eli surviving the year like all 16 games. No,
it'd have to be something absolutely remarkable, which I don't think we quite expect from the Giants or Eli as a whole. But you hit on Saquon Barkley, Vinny. He is coming off the board right about 102. So arguably the number one pick, depending on who you talk to. There's kind of that grouping at the top: Saquon, Kamara, McCaffrey, Zeke. I know you love some Melvin Gordon, so we'll get your thoughts on that a little bit later on. But Saquon right now is 101 technically, but right around that first pick for most people, and I think that's rightfully earned.
Yeah, I can't complain at all, man. He's so involved in the passing game, it's like ridiculous. He's putting up Le'Veon Bell numbers. He did it in his first year with like a garbage offensive line, not a great team, and was just like a fantasy stud, a stud on the field, incredibly heavily used. So I don't see any reason for that to stop. He's super young, so they're going to want to, at least try and use them all they can, because that seems to be the way the running back position is going with the wear and tear on these guys. So
110%. Gettleman obviously has invested a ton in that offensive line since he's come there, which in theory should help Eli, Daniel Jones when he gets the gig, Saquon back there, give a little more time. But fun fact on Saquon, he joined last year Randy Moss with the most 50-plus yard touchdowns by a rookie with 5. So obviously nothing to scoff at. We know he was great, and he continues to do so. Easily worth that number one pick there at the top.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy. I mean, what's the case? Like, yeah, you can go with Zeke possibly, but I don't know. He keeps punching people at nightclubs and whatnot. So Barkley, as bad as the team is, he already did it last year. So it's he's just too remarkable not to be taken number one, I think.
Absolutely, or at least in contention. And we're going to talk about Zeke and some of those other guys in part two and the options. But Saquon Barkley, good pick. And if you're a Giants fan, it may just tickle your fancy to get a Giant in fantasy football, which we typically don't advise. But here, the move will work out for you. Backup Wayne Gallman, we're not concerned about him at all, correct?
Yeah, I mean, they added guys like, well, actually just the one guy, Rod Smith, over from, who was backing up Zeke for the last couple of years. It's, it's a whatever ad, but it just adds to their weird backfield of Gallman, Elijah Penny, Paul Perkins. So point I'm trying to make, I don't know who the hell like a handcuff is if people are trying to do that. Again, we don't really advise that sort of stuff because they're not Barkley, and if they get plugged in, they won't be Barkley and they won't put up his production. So really not a concern for you if you take Barkley first. Don't stress yourself trying to take someone to cover that, production later.
Absolutely. They're not, just because they step into the role does not make them the replacement for Saquon. And Vinny, let's move on from the running back position and talk about the wide receivers. We just talked down on Eli, on Daniel Jones, obviously for what they are. You've got Golden Tate, who knows the DON personally, has met him through some business dealing. So a little fun fact for you. Shout out to Golden Tate and the DON. He comes over. He is now a New York Giant. We have Sterling Shepard, who steps into the role left, we'll say, by OBJ and his departure to the Cleveland Browns. And coincidentally enough, they're both going practically back-to-back. And actually, here they are. Golden Tate at 902 overall. Sterling Shepard 903 overall. Number 99 and 100 in drafts right now. As a whole, who do you prefer? Because they're essentially identical when it comes to draft day.
I will go with Golden Tate, just because they brought him in, they paid him all that money. Every time I watch a Giants game and I see Sterling Shepard, it's very, I don't know how to put it. I just don't care. Like when I'm watching him play, I'm like, all right, he's a wide receiver, he's doing stuff, but I don't know, nothing miraculous. And I would have thought, for the last couple of years, he would take advantage of seeing single coverage more often, and they just with Odell on the other side. Which obviously changes. And he really wasn't a great number 2, so I really don't see him stepping into a number 1 role at all. So I'm just going to give that to Golden Tate. He's a veteran. He'll do more of the slot stuff, which Shepard was moving to the slot a lot, with Odell and all that. But I don't know. I just feel like Tate will just assume that role and will be number 1 option, kind of like he was with the Lions. I think they'll play him the same way. He was great in PPR format, not so great in standard, so I'll probably put him on the same level as that.
Okay. I'm actually going to go the opposite and take Sterling Shepard. And I think that's from what I've seen out there, more of the consensus where people expect him to fill more of that role of OBJ. Obviously, the targets are there. Beckham leaves behind 124 targets, over 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns last year. So they have to go somewhere. Obviously, Evan Ingram, who we're going to touch on, Sterling Shepard, Golden Tate. So the opportunity is going to be there without question. But I think Sterling Shepard continues to take that step forward. And at the same price, I think he has a higher ceiling. He's played 11 games over the past 2 seasons without Odell Beckham. Without OBJ, he's averaging 12.6 PPR points over that span. Obviously, a smaller sample size. But again, we'll see what happens officially without OBJ and what that QB situation falls. But I think Sterling and Evan Ingram are the biggest beneficiaries of OBJ departing. I think Golden Tate is just fine. I think for his ADP, he performs and he's a value. I just think Sterling Shepard's a better value in my book.
Yeah, that's completely fair. I would certainly say I think the touchdown equity is certainly higher for Shepard and Ingram. So obviously that's been a problem for Golden Tate throughout his career anyway, in regards to fantasy. So fair point, Schreck. I'll take them into consideration. But
and like I said, I think both of them there at the ADPs you take them both. There's no question. And I am interested to see how they split because again, it's June 20th. We're looking at limited data based on who's actually drafting at the moment. But I think it's going to be interesting to see where they are come August when it really is draft time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at that ADP right now, they're both values. So
no question.
You kind of can't go wrong. But like I said, or like you said, it's pretty much preference.
Yep, totally splitting hairs, just like at the top of the draft right now. Is there another wide receiver that you think is actually fantasy relevant here? Because we've got Evan Ingram, and I think really for me, he's the last fantasy relevant guy on the offense right now.
Yeah, as far as pass catchers go, I think Evan Ingram is probably their, top, like in the top 3 options that they have. Basically, they have a bunch of kind of guys that really haven't been able to fulfill a sort of role like they have Cody Latimer and Benny Fowler, and they added Corey Coleman. So not really seeing a whole bunch of value in those guys. But Evan Ingram, he had a bit of a sophomore slump, but if anyone's going to pick up production from those missing OBJ targets, it's probably Evan Ingram, who, if he can stay healthy, he missed 5 games last year, should see an uptick in targets, of course, if he can stay on the field and improve. I think it's an interesting tight end grab. Obviously, we like grabbing him late. I don't know, Schreck, where do you think about grabbing Evan Ingram, especially with the ambiguity around the quarterback situation?
I mean, he's coming off the board right now, 6th pick in the 6th round. I'm just trying to see what tight end he is. That's 1.
Yeah, fuck all that.
3.
Too high for me.
4, 5, 6. So he's the 6th tight end off the board right now at 606.
I cannot pay that much.
I won't either. I mean, you got fan favorite Eric Ebron right behind him at 612 and Hunter Henry at 603. So I'm just going to wait, and we'll talk about a tight end in part 2 that is pretty much basically not even being drafted, where I'd rather roll the dice than pay 606 for Evan Ingram. But I do think opportunities there. I think, like you said, the targets from OBJ can go in 15 games without OBJ over the past 2 seasons. Ingram averaged 12.9 PPR points per game. If you get that out of your tight end each week, you are pumped. Obviously, can it be consistent? Can he stay healthy? 2 huge question marks for him and the Giants. So again, I don't know, but for the price, I'm also going to pass. Spin the wheel.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever pay up for a tight end, but if he's going that early, I can't advise it.
I think the only 2 that I would ever consider paying up for is Travis Kelce and Ertz. And that's considering, not even saying that I would necessarily do it. That would take a lot of time and strategy into figuring out what I'm actually going to do. But they're the only 2 I think I'd consider paying up for.
Have you thought about trying sports betting but aren't sure how it'll go? Our friends at FanDuel are giving away a $50 sign-up bonus at letstalkfantasyfootball.com/FanDuel-sportsbook.
All right, Vinny, so that's going to do it for the New York Giants. And that means it's time for the Dallas Cowboys. And let's kick it off at QB, as we always do, Dak Prescott. Last year, gets Amari Cooper. Obviously, Zeke has been a monster in and of himself. Those 2 combined for 42% of Dak's targets from week 9 on. I think Dak is going to be just fine as a QB. He'll have plenty of serviceable time. I just think serviceable is not going to be good enough with the depth of fantasy QB this year.
I think the depth of fantasy QB is kind of why I like Dak. Like, he's mainly going super late, so it's kind of one of those guys where I start playing my draft around that. Like, who can I wait? How can I wait on quarterback and grab someone that I don't give that will give me the production I need? And I think Dak's that guy. Like, he was so good after they got Cooper. Like, we'll go into Cooper in a second, but he was just great. And he always has that rushing upside. Like, he got 6 rushing touchdowns last year.
True.
He's a double threat we kind of forget about because they run such a predictable, weird offense. And I think Dak is very underappreciated, I think, in that system and what they ask of him. So I think his role has only expanded. Sorry, I keep cutting you off. But he's kind of one of those late guys I'm targeting. I think he's going to take a leap forward. And now they've had that offense for, the better part of last year. Obviously, they're going through a full offseason together, so I think that they can only improve.
Yeah, I mean, now that I'm looking at him in ADP, I mean, he's the 19th QB off the board, which I don't think I fully even comprehended as I put my notes together. Third pick in the 12th round. So really, at that point, you have your pick of QBs. Who do you like best? Odds are your league is not drafting 2 QBs, and if you waited, you're staring at the whole mix of Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, Jimmy G, Josh Allen, Dak, Kirk, Trubisky. I mean, they're all within a round or 2 of each other. And odds are all available to you because your league's probably going to wait. So it really does come down to preference. And like you said, we're going to talk, and let's talk about it now. Let's go back to running back, and let's talk about Amari Cooper because he obviously comes over, joins the team, and after being what everyone was kind of thought left for dead, he becomes this beautiful butterfly, so to speak, here for the Dallas Cowboys. And it was truly unreal. 7 touchdowns in 11 games, 896 yards, had 8.5 targets per game on last year's average. Incredible. And I don't think that changes this year.
Yeah, I think he keeps it up. The only thing I will say after looking over Cooper, again, because I was remembering it the way you did, where I'm just like, oh, he was like the savior of the Cowboys. He was still super inconsistent fantasy-wise. Like, he blew up for his, was that the 38-point game? And then he had a 45-plus game. So I think we kind of forgot that Cooper was putting up duds after dud for a while. So he's kind of still the same sort of inconsistent, can do it when – I don't know how to phrase that, but it's I love Cooper. I love what he can do. He has such untapped potential for consistency. If he can just put it together for an entire year, the dude is a top 10, no problem, wide receiver. But it remains to be seen. I don't know. I think we're going to need a little bit more of what I was saying from Dak Prescott. I think they need to evolve the offense around him. Cooper his ceiling will go just through the fucking roof.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to see if I can pull up his stats here, just to take a look, like you said, at some of that up and down, and because he did kind of have those blow ups. And let's say stats. Come on, internet. Of course, it's not game by game. Perfect. Because why?
Those game logs, Schreck. Give me those game logs.
Player does not have any game data for 2018. Well, Fantasy Pros is a fucking liar.
Well, regardless, man, super inconsistent. Obviously showed great potential, but you're expecting more out of him, sort of like I am. But I'm kind of I don't know. I'm kind of saying 2 things. I think he can put it all together, but also
you think there needs to be some work to make it happen.
Yeah, every single year he's consistently inconsistent. Consistently inconsistent.
Take it to the bank. Vinny, he's the 3rd pick in the 3rd round. He's going right after Keenan Allen, T.Y. Hilton, going right before your boy A.J. Green.
Hey, it's pricey, very pricey.
And Stephon Diggs. I'm trying. Let's see the trend on him. I mean, he's been hovering around 3.5. So it's about right. He hasn't really moved a ton. Again, it's early. But yeah, it's a pretty price to pay. Arguably could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He's a 12th wide receiver off the board. So he could arguably be your wide receiver number 1.
Yeah, and that's
scary.
That is a little scary. Very scary.
That's scary. So I think depending on how your draft falls, if he obviously comes out as your wide receiver 2, different ball game. Wide receiver 1 is it's going to be a little rich for my blood, although I do think he continues to have a nice year. Like you said, the inconsistency, he will burn you at times. Let's stay on wide receivers, Vinny, and we'll go back to the running back position. Obviously, we know Zeke's the guy, but
Right.
Michael Gallup, Randall Cobb, Allen Hurns, Tavon Austin. I think Michael Gallup is really the one guy that I like here. If I have to pick another wide receiver behind Amari Cooper to have that shot, and I feel like I've been on him in the past, and at some point maybe it'll hit if I keep picking Michael Gallup. I just think that, like you said, the offense has to get a little more creative, give Gallup some more targets. He had 5.1 targets per game in 9 contests last year when he shared the field with Amari Cooper. Maybe if he can get 1 or 2 more, he'll be okay. But 5 isn't a bad number either.
Yeah, I kind of also throw that year in the trash for them. Like it was a bit they were asking a lot of really young guys, and they kind of remember that whole like beginning stretch where they were like 1-4, and they were just like they were doing like a round robin at wide receiver, so no one can get a rapport with Dak. No one was playing the same position every game. It was really just Cole Beasley doing the same shit he always does.
Fantasy football bullshit, man.
Right, and that was about it. So I really don't feel like Michael Gallup got his fair shot. So I think his potential is up there. He is a very good deep threat. I think if they could start hooking up on that consistently, that'll be massive, especially since all the attention will be on Cooper. I think big play potential for Gallup is going to boost his fantasy value a lot. So I like him as a value pick. Just, again, with that offense, it's just got to improve for that to be valuable. And replacing the Cole Beasley stuff I was just talking about is Randall Cobb. I would love to be excited about that, but I kind of can't because injuries and just Randall Cobb hasn't been able to put it together for quite some time. So it's a little hard to get excited about. Although I like the pickup for them a lot. It's a good pickup for them.
I think he'll be somewhat useful for the team, fantasy relevant. There are reports that he has early chemistry with Dak, which means absolutely jack shit to me.
I love those headlines.
Definitely good for the fantasy community, and it definitely is what fans should be believing when they go to draft Randall Cobb. But yeah, I agree. Good for the Cowboys, not relevant for fantasy football. Allen Hurns, I don't even have a note on him here for me.
Well, he had that gruesome ass
yes.
broken ankle, leg, fucked up thing that happened. So I'm sure he's still recovering. Don't forget they have Tavon Austin still, Schreck. So
yeah, it's
totally fine.
Yeah, Tavon maybe the savior. I've got a good note here. This one comes from Fantasy Pros directly. It says, it's funny to remember back to this time last year when Dallas tried to hype up Tavon Austin by saying he would get 12 to 24 touches per game. He finished the year with 14 total touches.
I mean, what can you do? They have a gem, and they're just, you keep burying it down. Tavon's going to come out eventually.
This is his year.
That poor guy. He's so fast. That's all he's got.
It's just never going to happen for Tavon.
He is still on the team.
He is still on the team. Signed a 1-year contract, I believe. So he stays with them. Vinny, we're going to revert it back to the running back. You have nothing else at wide receiver, do you?
No, not really.
Okay. Running back, Zeke Elliott, obviously the guy. We don't have to talk about his stats and everything else because it's pretty clear. Arguably number 1 pick off the board as well. He's currently coming off the board with a 4th pick in the first round. And I think you're splitting hairs at the top depending on who you really like.
Yeah, if someone did that, I wouldn't be mad, at all. We were just talking about, I think Saquon should be. Zeke clearly has been doing it for longer and has been more consistent, if you're looking at it like that. So really can't complain about taking Zeke number 1 at all. He's presumably going to play all 16 games. So
as long as he stops throwing punches.
About time. So we shall see. But yeah, no problem with Zeke at 1. Definitely has to go top 2. Like I said, splitting hairs. Zeke is fucking great. Draft a lot of Zeke.
100%. I also think Tony Pollard is just interesting name to watch. God forbid something happens to Zeke. I don't think he's anything more than that. But I think he can work his way into a role here for the Cowboys. Maybe as I don't know, if return someplace, but I think if Zeke goes down, he's interesting in that offense. Good line. He's proven he's a capable runner. So just a name in general to keep out there. Yeah,
he's probably going to go right into that change of pace back for them. They made it a point to draft running back because they lost Rod Smith, who had been doing the backup job, like I said before. And they kind of got a whole lot of nothing. They have like Jarius Jackson, Mike Weber, Jordan Chun. not a lot of very notable names there, so they made it a point to, fill that gap in the draft. They did. Now they have Tony Pollard. It is what it is. He probably won't be relevant unless an injury happens to Elliott. Like you said, I don't think I would be handcuffing or even like sneaky drafting this guy, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Nope, just a name to know. God forbid Zeke does go down, and then it's a race to the waiver wire at that point, which the name really doesn't even matter at that point because it'll be all over the news. But that is what it is. Vinny, Jason Witten rejoins the Dallas Cowboys. We know this got Kyle McCall pumped up to see old man Witten rejoining the team. Do you have any care in the world that Jason Witten is a tight end for the Dallas Cowboys?
No, not really. I mean, he's out of the booth. That's good for him and us. That was unfortunate. Like I wanted to like Witten, and it was just like god awful. But yeah, he's 37. He's been out of football for a year. He's going to catch a lot of third down conversions. That's probably all I can muster up for Jason Witten.
Yeah,
probably good for the team, though.
Yes, I think he's great for the team. I think he'll be a leader, locker room guy, that kind of thing. But as far as fantasy and everything else, I mean, the biggest win, like you said, is out of the booth, and we'll take it.
Funny note: Rico Gathers got suspended for game 1. So if you want to be a dick and take Jason Witten with your last pick, play him week 1, and then drop his ass, that could be funny. If that's how you want to play fantasy football.
Yeah, if that's your thing, guys. If you're here to be funny, that's the move here, courtesy of Vinny and Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Vinny, do you have anything else here in the Dallas Cowboys for the people?
No, I do not.
All right, guys. So that is it on the Dallas Cowboys, which means it's question time, Vinny. Question time, and our very first question comes in from the one and only. It's Ed's question of the week, which we're now going to turn into Ed's question of the podcast, since we are cranking out more and more podcasts every week. So Ed's question of the podcast, first of its kind, and we kind of hit on it, but we'll touch on it for Ed. Can you trust Amari Cooper as your wide receiver number 1?
Yeah, we did touch on that, but like easy answer, no. I mean, we weren't comfortable even like thinking about it, and I feel like the last couple of years he's got you. Like we've talked about this dozens of times when he was on the Raiders. Like, are you comfortable with him as your 1? And it's like sort of if he puts it together, and he was just inconsistent, missed some games. So my easy answer is no. Could he possibly wind up being a wide receiver 1 on your fantasy team? Of course. But if I'm leaving the draft with Amari Cooper as my 1, I am not happy, and I do not trust that.
Or my running backs better be the fucking tits.
Dude, it has to be.
It's
loaded. Like,
yeah, you got to have something real special going on, I think, on the rest of the team for him to come out as a 1. If he comes out as your 2, I'm cool with him as my 2 because I think even with some of the inconsistency, the big weeks and the production are fine. But as my 1, I am not. And I don't know that you will get him as a 2 based on the wide receiver 13 right now. But anything is possible, Ed. So with that, good luck. Next one comes in from Mike via the website. He says Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard are going right next to each other in ADP. Who would you rather have and why? We kind of spent time on this already. Obviously, you took Tate, I took Shepard. But the moral of this question is they're both values, particularly right now in, I think it was the 10th round, if we go back and look at it.
Yeah.
So 10th round guys. Both value really just comes down to who you believe in a little bit more because Daniel Jones and Eli Manning are not going to be the swaying factor for you, at least at this point.
Correct. I would say standard nod to Shepard, PPR nod to Tate as an easy answer, but it just depends on like what kind of ceiling you're looking for and how you view how the ceiling could be viewed. Like you think Sterling could take the leap. I think just the consistency of Tate will make the ceiling there. So it's just all on your preference there. Totally
splitting hairs. This one comes in from Leo. He says, what are your guys' thoughts on the developing Todd Gurley news this offseason? Woof, I think, is my first answer to the Todd Gurley news. Sucks. We had a guy last year who really until, deep in, consistent producer, exactly what you wanted. Obviously, he's banged up and, he's falling in drafts. I mean, right now he's going 5th pick in the 2nd round, number 17 overall. Running back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, number 10. Running back number 10 off the board, Vinny.
Goodness. See, like my dumb brain is like, that is such a value if this pays off. And then I'm reminded that that's such a dumb risk to take when all this news is coming out. But I don't know. I have a feeling like maybe it's not as bad as we think, or he'll still get like his regular touches. And a touch for Todd Gurley is worth like 3 to like a regular NFL running back. So depending on how you view like how he could be used, if it's really just pain management, there's a lot of just blind faith you have to have in the Rams organization to handle this correctly, while also simultaneously taking care of your fantasy team for our stupid reasons. But it's just a bad situation, like you said. But it's going to be interesting to see preseason how it shakes out, if he plays at all. And I don't know. I'm just super confused, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shitty situation. I mean, this news comes June 18th. Gurley's trainer, Travell Gaines, said the running back has an arthritic component to his knee, but should be fine for 2019. Obviously, we'd expect them to say nothing less. But they also, Dave Richard of CBS says everybody knew Todd Gurley coming out of Georgia would have some stuff kind of going on with his knee and the arthritic component with the surgeries and whatnot. He says he thinks it's more just management. And when you look at Todd Gurley here at the 10th running back, Vin, I mean, you could go theoretically, I'm just trying to find my spot. You could take a Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley stack, a David Johnson 6, Todd Gurley stack on the way back, which if you have the faith and if he is even 75% of the Todd Gurley we know and love, it's a hell of a 1-2 punch, particularly with the love I've seen David Johnson get and the love Walsh has now renewed for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, and that's actually an interesting point. Like if you're going to take Todd Gurley, it's most likely going to be in the second round. It's a tough pill to swallow, but like what would you do in the first one? Because it's like you can get an elite wide receiver, sure, but then you kind of fuck yourself at running back if he's not what he used to be, clearly. So I think I'd be more comfortable if I loaded up on like an elite running back, then snag Todd Gurley if you're going with that strategy, load up on wide receivers for the next couple rounds, and then figure out your shit from there. But it's all about how comfortable you feel. I think out of the first round, I think if you nail someone like that, if you nail like a top elite running back and then want to pair him with Gurley, that could be a league winner right there if he's healthy.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And I mean, as I'm looking at it, it's funny how it's kind of fallen in succession for us because we talk about, say, you're whatever, 6 overall, you take David Johnson, whatever. You get Todd Gurley. Now you've got 2 backs. Now, by the time you come back on the clock, you're looking at
probably Amari Cooper.
Who we just spent the time talking about. Could be your wide receiver 1. And I said your running backs have to be the tits. And I don't know if that technically qualifies as the tits. If you believe that Todd Gurley is going to be mostly what he was last year, we know he's not going to be 100%. It's not going to happen. But if he's mostly that, then you could have the tits at running back and be staring at Amari Cooper in the face as your wide receiver 1.
Yeah, that's it's a lot.
It's a lot of risk. It's a lot of risk.
Yeah, we've seen it pay off. We've seen it absolutely collapse people's dreams. So it's, what you're doing at that point and you know what you're in for. So you're either going to be super happy or super bummed.
Chase, if you're listening, we just lined up your draft strategy for the season. So you've got your risk here in Amari Cooper and Todd Gurley. So super interesting conundrum here with Todd Gurley. Obviously, more is going to happen. It is June 20th, but it may not get any clearer. We may still stay in a spot here where we're just as confused on Todd Gurley going into August as we are now.
I feel like that's going to be the case. I don't think he's going to play a snap of preseason.
Which is basically gonna suck for analysis, and it's really just going to be trust your tolerance. That's it. Hey, the risk takers are either going to sink or swim. That's pretty much it.
Yep.
All right, Vinny. Last question comes in from Kyle. He says, "Who is your number 1 pick today, and give me your reasoning why?" And I think I know your answer because you'd said it before when we talked about Zeke possibly being the number 1. You're a Saquon guy through and through, it seems like.
Yes, sir. Way too good, way too involved in the passing game, way too involved, period. So I am taking Saquon Barkley. The dude is a freak.
Yeah, I am on board with you, I think, with what they've done to that offensive line. And Saquon he's just talent. I mean, it's sad to see for the Giants because I think they're going to waste his best years there as a whole, as a team. But he will continue to perform and be worth it. So time obviously will tell. But I think we can sweep Saquon through, and that is going to be that's going to be it for us here in part one. Vinny, you have anything else for the fans?
No, man, it's good to be back. This is fucking awesome. I'm so excited to start this season. This is going to be a fun one.
Absolutely, man. It is officially fantasy football season. I am Nick Schreck for Let's Talk Fantasy Football. He is Vinny Gonzalez. We'll be back soon with part two. We will catch you on the flip side.
This has been Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Thanks for listening.